Bismillah. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to ISLA's Teach with Tech session. Today we're going to be discussing teaching reading online. For those of you who don't know me and haven't been to a previous session, my name is Sophia Jetpuri. I have a master's in curriculum and other masters in educational leadership. I work as a curriculum content consultant at Google, and I'm currently a reading language arts teacher at NewsELA Academy. I've been teaching for 15 years, public, private, international charter. And like I said, today's session is more discussional based, so I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you guys as well, and where you are as teachers and what you've been doing in your online classes. So our objectives for today, how do we engage readers in the different domains under Common Core? Now I know I put that there, but it's not, we're not going to do too much in terms of theory. We're going to just kind of discuss Common Core in terms of what's included in the Common Core and what we can do as educators in each one of those Common Core domains. We're going to just go through some different online reading assessment tools, benchmark tools, running record tools. We'll discuss a couple different reading websites and tools that you could use for that. And then finish up with, I'm going to share some online ebook resources along with some other resources for all of you to take home and start beginning to use in your classrooms. And then the very last thing, we'll end with a raffle, random generator to see who wins the 25 ebook licenses for their class, inshallah. So that is today's status. Like I said, it's more conversational, and since we are a smaller group, if you want to unmute at any point in time and just kind of chime in, you're more than welcome to. I'd love to actually hear from you guys this time around. And we have a couple polls that I'm building in, but it's not much. Okay, so virtual teaching reading. So let's look at the Common Core domains. There's literature, informational text, foundational skills, writing, and speaking listening. Now, I know we're not necessarily doing a writing workshop, but because it kind of builds into that ELA, depending on your school format, some of our teachers are actually doing reading and ELA together in a bulk, class. At my school, we have them separated, but even then, there's always that overlap to where you're going to be doing things from one class to another that overlap. So I went ahead and just kind of put it on there, but I don't have much writing tools built into this one, just a few, but I'd love to hear from you guys as well. So feel free to chime in as we're looking through those domains. Okay, so reading literature, what does that kind of really entail when we look at our classrooms? That could mean guided reading lessons, it could mean independent reading and book studies. And I just kind of listed out a few different things on here. So there's open ebooks, and those are online books that the students can use for guided reading, independent reading, or book studies. It could be used for any of them, and we'll be sharing that. That's the free resources I have for you guys. There's epic books, and we're going to do our next actual training is on epic books. So I followed along with that one. So if you are interested on how to use epic, that will be our next training, inshallah, next week. For those who are struggling with the online interface, I have my own students who either they're moving, they have books packed away, they don't have any more books, they have books from the year before, they don't have those type of reading resources available to them. Reach out to your local libraries. That's where you're going to find, online ebooks, books that you can actually do curbside pickup. Some libraries are open around the nation, so they're able to get those books that they need. I've also had students come to my door and pick up books, so you can also find other ways to get them the reading resources. But now with our curriculums, a lot of these curriculums, obviously they have pre-built reading resources, so you have those online resources that are built into the curriculum. And if you're not using that, you can always take a picture and send that to the students, and there's different ways to get that literature. But overall, you're going to use the same methods that you would when you're in class, that you would still have that guided reading where you're reading something together and you're going to teach them how to do those annotations. And you could use your document camera, or you could take the pictures and highlight alongside them and have the students highlight on Zoom at the same time. So regardless what tool you're going to be using, it's still going to follow that same literature sort of framework that you would be using if you're in class anyways. You would still be doing independent reading time. So how would that look in an online classroom? Are you going to have all the kids on Zoom and, okay, everyone pick up a book and silent read, everyone just read on your own in 30 minutes? Give them the opportunity to read. You know, what I'm finding that a lot of students are just kind of rushing from one Zoom class, one live class, from one to another. They're not getting that time to read. So give them that independent reading time. And how would you hold them responsible? Has anyone tried Pizza Hut Book It? I know they're still running online programs right now. They're doing digital certificates for students. I think it's K through 6. Six Flags is doing the same thing. There's Papa John's has a program that you could sign up for. Chipotle has programs. So there's different ways to get the kids motivated to do that independent reading, and then hold them accountable using reading logs and things like that. You could also do book studies in partners and in pairs. And you know, I did a partner book study, and I just had different students reading the same one, and we're doing that in discussions. I added in a couple other sources. You know, there's YouTube. I know a lot of teachers are looking at YouTube for finding books and readings that are already pre-recorded right now, but really be careful with the YouTube. You can do it, you can use them because the audio option is already there, it's already recorded, but you find sometimes if you don't read through it fully that occasionally the YouTube links, they might have inappropriate content in them. And that's something you have to be really careful for. With my kindergartner, she was reading a book and it was Corduroy Comes Home or something like that. And in the middle of it, the author, the person who's reading, completely goes off script, and she's saying words that are highly inappropriate for a 5-year-old. So make sure if you're using YouTube and the audio option, you're going to fully listen to make sure that the audio matches the text of the book. That is something you need to be cautious for. And also there's a little bit of a different element when it's the teacher herself or himself reading, or the students themselves reading out loud and taking that turn, versus watching another YouTube video or another video that a teacher is using. Bitmoji libraries I'll be sharing at the end, and Pixar short films. This one I'm having a lot of fun with. It doesn't really give them that actual reading element, but it does cover all those literature themes. If you're discussing what's the tone of the character, what's the theme, what is the point of view, if you look up Pixar short films, you're able to get a lot of those reading kind of standards covered by discussing that and using it as a good, as an anchor text, or, you know, as a mentor text to kind of just launch your section. I see Sister Nicole said ReadWorks is a great resource. Yes, it is. I actually didn't include that one in this, but ReadWorks is amazing. I use it all the time. It's really cohesive. They have a lot of different grade levels, elements, and I mean, it's just a lot of content. So definitely ReadWorks is a great one. I'm going to add it on here. So when we post this, I'll have it listed on here. CommonLit, yes, I have that one too. Keep sharing them. I would love to learn more and see what else we have on here. We'll go more into CommonLit in a little bit. Okay, writing. This is literally how the standard is, you know, this domain is expressed in terms of, it says argumentative writing, informative writing, writing narratives. It stresses the importance of writing evidence from informational text. I mean, it's really wordy, but I put it up there so we can see that, you know, it still relates to our reading, because the students are going to be reading texts that have students argument that are, you know, nonfiction texts with point of views. They're going to be reading narratives, and by building in both together, you're able to kind of give them that cohesive element in terms of their reading curriculum. So there's a couple different things that I kind of placed on here, and definitely please, I have my chat screen open, so share what else you've been doing for writing. There's no red ink. This is a paid subscription, but there are a lot of free elements. I love No Red Ink, because if you haven't tried it, go ahead and do that. It will really annotate your students' work for them. They can post it online, and it will do quick edits for your students, and it'll show them areas of improvement and scale them from like a 1 to an 8, I believe, or 1 to a 4, depending on how you set it up. So they get a kind of a good launching point of where they are nationally in comparison to other students. And then there's grammar activities, and it's kind of my go-to. Unfortunately, it is a paid service, so you can only do a certain amount with a free account. The same with Quill. Look that one up as well. And I put Google Docs on here, even though I know, you know, we've all been using Docs for a couple of weeks now and maybe years. But for Google Docs, you could simultaneously have every one of your student on the same document, and they could be editing with each other. Each student could have their own document, and you could hop in and out and working through those. You could also put comments and suggestions onto their docs. And that's what I'm finding as kind of my go-to versus the no writing, even though those are great resources. It's always different when you have that teacher herself, giving your direct feedback versus the feedback of a random algorithm on a website. But I did put it on there because I know some might struggle with not having the resources available at that school. So those are my recommendations. Oh, there goes my light. Those are my recommendations on those. But if you were able to do your own annotations and your own things, Google Docs would still be the best way because they're able to get feedback directly from you. Let's see what else we have. Okay, generating a link via Safe YouTube. Yes, you're right, it does. But it's still going to be the same information that's recorded, right? So it'll eliminate all those ads on the side, which is great because you don't want those random things popping up. But if the content itself is made by, a little 15-year-old who's like, let me read the story and then goes off script, it's still something that just as an educator, we need to make sure we're not blindly sending out links and watching the first 20 seconds and thinking, oh, this is great. We need to watch the content fully and making sure that it gives them, a very safe environment that we're putting them into in their own houses too as well. Okay, speaking and listening. So obviously in this online world, everyone is already doing a lot of speaking and listening, but you want to make sure, don't be like me. I'm talking a lot. I don't hear you guys being vocal right now, but allow the students the opportunity to talk. They have to have oral communication, interpersonal skills. We have to be able to make sure that they're able to use visual displays and communicate for different purposes. So obviously Zoom is number one on that. We have Flipgrid. They post their own videos through Flipgrid. We can go into another training for Flipgrid in the future. Padlet is really cool. They can post a video or post a picture, and it kind of works as a giant Post-it note. Students could listen to podcasts. So outside of just YouTube, it's oral listening as well. Have them listen to a podcast and then write about it. And this could work even for younger grades, if not a full podcast, it could be quick 5-minute talks. So there's so many ways to do speaking and listening, especially right now. Normally, that was the one that I honestly struggled with as a teacher in the classroom. How do I incorporate more, opportunities for the students to speak out loud and share things out loud? Because we're always let's go through all of the other content. But this is working out beautifully right now, giving them the opportunity to share and orally present different things right now. I'm going to pause for a second. Does anyone want to chime in on anything as of right now? On any of the things we discussed, any thoughts, tips, feedback, any other suggestions in any of these domains? Like I said, I want today to be more discussion based, and I want to be able to, have that collaboration with you guys. No? Shaza, you're back. Hey.
Assalamualaikum. I got my daughter to fall asleep. Alhamdulillah. Yes.
Alhamdulillah. So I want to hear from your research perspective before I move on. What do you think about the speaking and listening and how it is right now, and with Zoom and everyone already on the camera and being able to do that?
So in terms of speaking and listening standards and meeting those, I think that it's something that I have heard teachers struggling with, honestly, with my own children. I know that I've got 2 boys in middle school, very different personalities. And so I can just tell you from the students' perspective, from the little bit of insights that I get as a mom from them, it's one of my children, my older son, is an extreme introvert. And he's also 12, turning 13. So it's that adolescent phase. You don't want people looking at you. So some of the things that you might be trying to achieve on Zoom might actually be difficult because the students are even more apprehensive to be responding to prompts when they know that, for example, the camera is going to zoom in on them.
Directly
right?
on them.
And there's even been some discussion about whether or not there should be an option for students to actually not have their cameras on. I know there's a lot, with that, and a lot of responsibility that teachers have in terms of ensuring that students are engaged. But I can think of, in terms of the students' social emotional development, that there's just right now more than ever the need to have multiple formats for students to engage in, choice boards and
Yes.
multiple different kinds of outlets to provide a check for their understanding is really important.
Thank you for adding to the discussion. You're so right. Like one of the activities we did about a week ago, and I had the students, they were just working in a group, and I was like, I want you to just do a quick summary and you can present it in either a written format, you could act it out, you could talk about it however you want. And I gave them a couple different options because like you said, everyone's at a different emotional state. So I had some students who put it on Flipgrid where they just posted a quick video and it was available for anyone, but you can change the settings on Flipgrid to where only the teacher can see it or only the whole class could see it. You could also put it on just Google Classroom where they know that they are able to share that understanding and only the teacher is seeing it, no one else. Whereas I had some students who were like, we'd love to present on Zoom on Thursday. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had some students who wanted to be in front of the camera. So it gave them the opportunity for me to see everyone's learning, but not everyone was presenting out loud. Okay, let's continue a little bit. And of course, just keep chiming in. I'd love to hear about
I have one way I've gotten my students to do things. I went through GLAD training program, and one of the trainings was to have the students become the teacher for a subject. So you might have, depends on how many groups you have, how many kids, but you can divide them into groups and they research something, whatever you're teaching, and you give one group one part to teach, and you give another group another part, study and then learn about, and then you give the other group another subject to study and learn about, and then you bring them together and they teach the group what they learned.
I love that. And that definitely makes them experts in that one area. And you want to see them, really thrive. So that's a great example. Thank you.
Nicole, what grade do you teach, or what grade did you use that with?
I teach grades 4 through 7, language arts and social studies. It can be used in those grades very well.
What is GLAD training? I've never heard of that.
It's a training where we have a lot of ELA or ELL students, and it's a training to get students to different ways to get students to participate when they can't necessarily read or they can't necessarily write, finding ways for them to work with their groups, finding ways for them to feel comfortable with working with students and not just part of their, not just being called on in class.
Yeah.
Like so it's a really great training. It is around the country, and it's here in Wisconsin right now. So it was an awesome program to get to go through.
Michelle, Nicole, you adding in that piece about the ELL just really heightens, like right now I was talking about social emotional needs, but like there are certain, like if you are an English language learner, being called on the spot to respond to something requires, more processing time and maybe some scaffolds that aren't present right now in the online world. So I really, really like the whole option of allowing people to prepare offline and do that kind of teacher for a day. I know that whenever I've done teacher for a day, I've also added in like a rubric just to create some kind of still allows them to
framework.
But just so that and usually I'll count it as an assessment because it does require so much work, the research and
because they're working with a group, that usually gives them they're not stuck by themselves and kind of get that help and learning from their peers while they're doing it in action. So that's what I really love about it.
Nicole, right, so you have a mixed group that's not fully ELL, so it might be 1 or 2 ELL students and the others are not.
No, not really. I would probably say sometimes I have half a class that's ELL, sometimes I have 2 or 3 students who are, but it's a wide range.
Yeah, but that gives them that support.
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, let's continue into some online reading assessments, and feel free to continue to chime in. Okay, so just some websites for benchmarks. I just put a couple on here. There's so many more, and a couple more we'll hit in a minute because they serve multiple purposes. So there's Study Island. Study Island has online benchmarks along with online skill practice, lessons, games. This is paid through the school. I've heard because of COVID, there's some free subscriptions individuals can get, not teachers, but individuals. So that's something that I don't know if they've continued, but you could look into it. IXL has benchmarks and skill practice. It doesn't have lessons and practice. And then my favorite is actually EasyCBM. While Study Island and IXL offer a lot more resources, they're also paid completely for the most part. EasyCBM is super easy, and I actually want to share it with you guys today. So I'm gonna pull that up. Has anyone tried EasyCBM at all?
Assalamu alaikum, this is Fatima. Yes, I've tried EasyCBM, and it's really good for benchmark, like we used to have every 4 to 6 weeks. So it's a really good tool. You can actually get different domains for math and reading. And
are you guys able to see my EasyCBM screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking, actually, you know what? I should have logged in because I don't want to show student names and things like that. So let me just switch my screen.
I've never used Study Island for benchmark. How did you ever use it?
There's a diagnostic and pre-test on most of them.
Oh, okay, the pre-test, yeah.
Yes, so that will give you that same kind of benchmark, because when you look through the reports, it'll show you areas where the students have excelled or mastered in different areas. So here's an example for EasyCBM. There's a light version and a pro version. Now the light version is free, and you're able to get more than enough, in my opinion, with the light version. I'm going to click on my class, for example, and demo student. So you have options of different titles. So I have it already, set up at a certain grade level. So for example, let's click on this one. It'll show you which different, which ones have already been completed by those students. So you make sure you don't, accidentally give the same one. So you click on your benchmark test, and it's a quick take a test. They have a reading in front of them, and it will go to a couple of different questions for them. So I'm just putting in random answers for demo student. I don't think it shows the student the result, but from the teacher's perspective, it will show me how long did they spend on this assessment. It'll show me their score and areas of weakness. So if it was more informational type questions that they were struggling in, or literature based, whatever that domain is, it will show. I'm trying to see exactly how many questions. Most of them were about 15 to 20. Okay, but on the scoring is pretty easy, but you see it's like fairly simple. There's not a lot of, stuff on the side, other areas where the students can click on. So I like that. It's not very distracting for those visual people, and you can change the text size. I just like that it's simple. Sometimes simpler is better. You don't need a lot of other things to go along with it. But this is a really good quick benchmark, and it's also, something that you can do right off the cuff. It's like you're not 100% sure about that student, just give them another test and give them another benchmark, and it will give you that quick score that you might be looking for. Running records. So running records, I know they kind of stop right when you hit, I would say like 4th or 5th grade. Every school is a little different in the way they're doing them. Generally, they are more used for your elementary learners. The first one I wanted to show you was Literably, or actually I'm going to open this up and I'll show that to you in a moment. So let me come right back to that one. There's Think Fluency. This is actually linked through Google. If you look it up, it will link to your classroom. It's got all of your Lexile scores. It will tell you where they are approximately age-wise. It is not free though. It's not too expensive. It's about $30 for the full year. So when you look at, that $3 a month kind of, it's not too bad, especially that it links with Google Classroom. There's Raz Kids and Reading A to Z. There's running records, tons of documents, fluency recorders. You can find some of them on the free subscription, and most of them will be paid. So, that varies. I'm going to come back to Literably in just another moment. I want to talk about this one-on-one traditional method. In class, if we were doing a running record, we would have the text in front of us, the student would be reading it, and we'd be marking it to kind of see where their fluency is at, if they're struggling with phonemes, if they're struggling with chunking, what their really area of need is. Even though you're online, that is still my #1 go-to, because even though it will take a little longer scheduling one-on-one kind of sessions, those students want to see you. They don't want to be sitting on different websites all day long and different links and different tools. And this is why today I really wanted it to be more conversational based, because all these tools are available, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Especially reading is such a subject that, you know, we know the research, like in terms of how students excel when they're reading, how reading every day makes differences to their education and to their college acceptance and things like that. So we know that research, but you know, when you're reading face to face with a person, that connection is completely different. And when you're seeing your teacher versus just reading through to a direct screen and it's recording you. So use that one-on-one session, one-on-one method as much as you can. You could share your document with them. You could send them a picture ahead of time. They could be reading a book and you could be reading the same text and writing down on a running record on what mistakes you're making. But that is still my number one go-to, even though I know we're supposed to be talking about virtual frameworks, but this is still doable over, you know, over a phone call, over Zoom. And I still think that personal one-on-one makes a huge difference when it comes to reading. Literally, I'm going to go ahead and open this one up for you guys and show it to you really quick. It is a very cool one. I really like it because it records the students as they're working. So it will listen to your students. It will, and I wanted to show you guys the video. Let's see. Let me know if the sound kind of glitches. I'm going to put myself on mute for a moment and hopefully it won't echo. Let's see.
Sophia, we can't hear the sound.
Oh no. Okay. Pause. I can't get it to pause. Hold on. Okay, well, it just stopped on its own. But basically, every student, you can assign them to their own reading level. And once you assign them, they would be doing the reading and recording themselves. And within a couple hours, you'll get a report that will show you, you know, how the students have changed their words, what type of error it was, and you'll get that full running record written out and sent to you. You don't have to do any of that data collection part of it. So it's pretty easy, honestly. The only kind of catch here is Literally is free for up to 10 assessments a month for a teacher. So in my head, the way I was kind of working it in the past was, okay, I have 9 weeks, so over 2 months in 1 quarter, I want to do at least 1 fluency assessment per student, you know, during this way. If that's the case, if you know you have 20 students, you're able to get it to work. If you have numbers higher than that, you might have to get a paid subscription, or if you need to do running records more often than that. You don't have to only use this way as well. So it could be one way to get that digital report for parents, you know, and you could also have your own record as well. But it's pretty cool that it, you know, automatically just kind of does it for you. You don't necessarily have to do that data. I know for me, time is a big thing. So somebody, you know, counting every word and coming up with that self-correction rate and accuracy rate, not having to go through those numbers was a huge thing for me. Has anyone tried any other things with fluency? How often do you guys do running records with your students? All right, well, y'all students are lucky if you're not doing running records, because they don't like it anyways. But I do think it's important in terms of, you know, learning that the students are not only reading it fluently, but they're also understanding what they're reading it and to make sure that they have those skills. Okay, virtual reading, I actually cut this out because we talked a little bit about guided reading before. Some other sites for skill practice. CommonLit, I think one of the sisters mentioned it earlier. CommonLit is a great resource, and this is one. I'm gonna just stay out of presentation mode so I can just like literally hop and show you everything. Y'all know I like demoing more anyways. So CommonLit, there's free version and there's also a paid version. So with the free version, you're actually able to do almost everything. I don't even use a paid version and I'm able to do everything I would hope to do. It links to your Google Classroom. So I'm just using my school one, but you know, just mark it for them for a little while. And it will show you, you know, there's pre-assessments available. You can see student performance, you can manage your classes, but you have a huge library of content that can be searched by books that you guys are reading as a class. So if you're reading The Alchemist, or if you are reading Lord of the Flies, you can find readings that already correlate with those. If you want to focus on a certain genre, or you want a reading only for that grade level, this starts at 3rd grade, goes up to high school. You can also search different readings by literary devices. So this week we are studying theme. I want a reading that will only focus on theme, then I would click on that literary device. So there's a lot of different ways to use this. And I'm going to go over to theme and just show you a sample real quick. So these are all the different readings, for example. Oh, The Gift of the Magi. I love that one. Okay. So when you get on here, it will show you the Lexile level of the reading. The students can alter the font size. You can assign it through Google Classroom. It has a read aloud option, translate options, which is great for those ELL learners as well. There's assessment questions, guiding questions. So as they're reading, it pops up and there's guiding questions that they can click on and follow along as they're reading. So it's not only just read and answer the question, it gets them to kind of think along while they're reading it. And there's annotation tools that they can highlight and write all over it. There's pens, you know, students can highlight and add annotations throughout it. And I love annotating. So CommonLit is definitely one that I think my students are in it at least once a week, and it will give you full, like a full spectrum of information once they've completed it in terms of student levels. Has anyone else tried CommonLit? I know we had one person who did. Okay, well, if you haven't, definitely this one is a go-to. Okay, the next one is Read Theory. Has anyone tried Read Theory before I demo it and show it to you guys? Okay, well, Shaza, I'm seeing the data person in you like sparking lights, because this is all data. You're getting straight up data when you're doing these with your students. Because now I made an account for my own kids, like my younger 2 little babies, because I loved it so much that I was like, okay, my own kids, I'm putting you on this. And literally it's the Navi Wallace, and I put my daughter on it.
There you go.
It's so great. And she hasn't wanted to do it yet. It just says no data available.
Uh-oh.
Show you, I don't want to share student information. Honestly, I wasn't able to block out the names. But it will show you student Lexile levels. It'll show you how many minutes they read, how long they read, how long one reading took them. I mean, the way that the data is pretty amazing on Read Theory, and it's completely free. It doesn't ask for anything at any point in time. They also have, so it's like 1,400, it says like, 14 million teachers are using it. The students get kind of motivated while they're reading because they're like, oh, I just upped a level and I just got a prize. And they really want to keep reading. So they're framed as quizzes, and they'll read one quiz, they answer a few questions, and then they move up to the next level. So they're constantly competing to get to a higher level. And right now I am teaching gender separated classes. So it shows me how many questions the girls have answered and how many questions the boys have answered. So currently they're racing to see who can answer the most amount of questions and who can read the most. So I was like, this is awesome. I don't even need to assign it to y'all. You're just doing it on your own. And because you're competing to see, will the boys win by the end of the quarter or the girls on who can do the most amount of work. So, I mean, I'm loving it. There's also worksheets that are here that you can download, and they're all free. So if you don't want to have to do it in an online way, you can download any of the reading comprehension worksheets and exercises. But yeah, it's pretty cohesive. I feel like this is a great tool. And it's synced with Google Classroom as well. Any questions about Read Theory? No? Okay, let's go on. Okay, NewsELA. Has anyone used NewsELA before, or NewsELA? Okay, so NewsELA, it used to be 100% free. Now they've changed it a little bit. NewsELA is a great place to get your informational reading content. a lot of times what I've noticed is, especially with our textbook curriculums or basal readers, if you still have those, they're mostly your fiction content, and you're not going to see as much informational reading. Our Common Core standards have shifted in the past few years that includes so much more informational reading, and the old curriculum companies that came out with those curriculums don't have that amount of informational reading built into those texts. So NewsELA is a great way to get that content. Now there's content for all subjects, for reading, science, math. You can specifically look for essays and look for readings and news articles that link to your other subjects. So if in science they're learning about plants, you can find a reading that talks about the genomes of plants, and they would be reading that different articles. The difference that you see when it's in a paid subscription versus a free subscription is that the paid one, it will allow you to not only assign it to the students, but it will grade the assignment and grade all those questions. In the free subscription, you just kind of pick and choose your articles. So I'm going to just show you one article, for example. This is really great for differentiation. A lot of the other ones, like Read Theory, it will build off and it will give your students different readings depending on how it's adapting, how the students are reacting to it. So if the students are getting all great, perfect comprehension scores, it will push them up higher levels. If they're not doing as well, it'll push their level lower. It basically gives them that baseline. So, but it still is not a 100% differentiation. Whereas here, if you want every student to talk about food waste, this was just the random one I clicked on, you could also change their Lexile level. So you could start at a 560 Lexile level for the same content all the way up to 1220, which is the max. So that's ranging anywhere from, I would say, a 4th grader who's at a high level, so maybe 5th grade, up to a 12th grader. And you can adjust their reading levels so that they're reading the same content, but you're really differentiating for those learners who need extra support. And each reading comes with a writing activity, and it comes with a quiz activity. Now, these online activities, once you assign them, you're not able to access those answers unless you have a paid subscription. I think there's a free trial for a little bit, but you're also able, without the subscription, you're able to present it, print it out, share the PDF with the article, quiz, and answers. You can switch to presentation mode, which is new this year, and you can share your entire screen without all the other stuff on the side. So NewsELA is a really great tool to bring in that informational reading to your students so that you hit that part on that domain. Any questions about NewsELA? Okay, I see Sister Nicole said she's tried this, but only once. I am a big, politics and, informational reading fan. Only in the past few years, I'm noticing that building that in for your students really makes them more global learners. So that's one I really wanted to share with you guys. And then there's one more, but it's not necessarily linked to reading, but I wanted to share it because it does hit our speaking and listening skills, and it allows the students to get that informational text and informational learning. So it's a quick website, it's CNN.com, and then you go CNN 10. It's 10 minutes of news every single day. Now they have it on their website, they also have it on YouTube. You can click and watch it on YouTube. I would suggest this would be anywhere from 4th grade on up. I do know my daughter watched it in 3rd grade. She enjoyed it, but I personally, I don't know about the content being okay for kids that young. It is generally okay, but I definitely wouldn't go below 3rd grade because the vocabulary at that point gets higher. But it's really cool because it also includes a transcript. So the students, if you're doing a lunch session, or if you're in person and they have snack time, or you just need a quick brain break, they can actually watch this informational reading, and then they have to come back with, okay, what did you learn? Tell me about the top news stories, summarize it, and they're able to use those speaking and listening skills to now share that, to hit that informational context. It also has transcripts. So they're able to also read through and access the printable versions of the news for that day as well. They're able to get a lot of global information that way really quick without having to watch a lot of news. So this is just one that I use quite often, and I wanted to share it with you. All right. There's Epic Books. Epic Books, inshallah, I put that as our next session. So we'll do a training on that for those who are interested. It's an online platform with thousands of books for your students. And this is also free and it's available for your students. It's free for educators. And we'll do a training on that soon. All right, I'm going to wrap up, but I wanted to show you what resources I have for you guys today. So on my link tree, there's a really cool infographic. It's named Marzano's High Yield Strategies. And for some of these different reading and writing domains, you can click through the infographic and it'll give you different ideas. It's a quick tech toolkit. So if you wanted your students to work on identifying similarities, differences, it's saying either use this PowerPoint or use Post-its or use the Frere model. And it's just really quick guide, really quick infographic that's fully interactive and it'll link you to these different tools for providing reinforcement and to do some of these reading concepts with your students. So that's on the link tree. Along with that, as promised, I said I would have so many reading rooms. So this was actually curated by this other teacher right here. If you click on this reading room, it will take you to a full Geronimo Stilton library. I'm going to copy it real quick and show you this one. And they've already put together all of these, every Geronimo Stilton book. When you're in your PowerPoint, your PDF mode, it will link. Some of them are YouTube links, some of them are ebooks, they're all different. So there's all of this right here: Geronimo Stilton, Black Lagoon, Pout Pout Fish, Jenny B. Jones, Kevin Hinckus, Dogman. So this would be anywhere from, I would say, 2nd grade. If your readers are really strong, there's even Pete the Cat, so maybe even 1st grade, up to 4th. There's Growth Mindset Reading Report, and I'm saying up to 4th, but my 6th grader, he still wants to read Dogman, so I don't know about that. It could vary. There's also this one right here I found. This other teacher did an amazing job. She has Ninja series, a Halloween library, an alphabet library, numbers and counting library, and let's see, India Cultural Library. I mean, she has hundreds that she's put together. So just be careful. Don't share this entire link tree with your students at any point, because you want to make sure you control, what information you're sharing. For example, there is like an LGBTQ Pride library as well. There's a Christmas library. There's a Halloween one. So just be careful with that as you, share that. If I click on Weather and Seasons Library, I'm going to show you. And it's also another Bitmoji one. And different weather and seasons books that she's put together, what from it's like cloudy with the chance of meatballs to warm weather, storms. So you have a mix of nonfiction and fiction here. But they did an amazing job putting them together, and they were willing to share it with all of you. So I wanted to make sure you have access to all of those. What I'm doing for my students, I'm kind of pulling and choosing some of them, and I'm posting them on our class webpage. So they'll have them, as they want them. So we have those 2-3 things. And then I wanted to share this one right here. This is a reading strategies PowerPoint for parents at home. You want to make sure that your parents are really on board, especially when your students are already online, on Zoom all day long. They don't want to be there anymore. But this is just for parents to really help them, guide them. And, they're probably just as overwhelmed having their kids at home and kind of feeling how to be an educator right now. So something that you can share as a resource with them, giving them ideas, either like in different strategies like think, pair, share, and underlining and highlighting, and things that they can do with their students when they're at home and reading with the kids. But and then there's a ton of links and reading tips for the parents as well in there. So that is on the link tree. I will go back to that page so you can see it. It is on that link tree right there. And that's kind of it for today. I wanted to do a random generator. So Shaza, if you have a few minutes, if you want to do the poll, and I was going to do a random generator to see who can win the open ebooks for their class for today.
So actually, I guess my poll didn't save when I was trying to quickly put it together before I got to put my daughter to sleep. So I really just wanted to get some feedback from you all about what kinds of Teach with Tech you would like to see. And, If Sophia doesn't know about it, we can, of course, we always welcome to have anybody and everyone share their expertise. So we're welcome to have any of you join. But yeah, I think Sophia had talked about gamification as another possible topic. Epic books is something that she's mentioned. But what else? Any other topics, any other subjects that you're really like struggling for? I know I see Sister Nuskia is here. Maybe stuff for pre-K, maybe Islamic studies and Arabic. I actually just spoke to a brother today who created an app that helps teach Quran for young children, 4 to 8.
That is so
Super
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only thing with that is that, of course, you know, that is somebody who created their own app. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't want anybody to feel like they're being marketed to, but on the other hand, these are all tools that we really want to know more about because they're things that we're teaching. So I always try and like weigh that out in terms of how it might feel. So I might invite you all to please share. Waiyakum, Brother Adil, thank you so much for being here. Please do share any thoughts, any ideas, any needs you guys have. And it doesn't have to be Teach with Tech, right? We're getting together. Let's make it something that's beneficial for you all. And so it could be a lot of other things too. We're not limited here. All right, Sister Sophia.
Okay, I think I got everyone's names. Let's see.
Wow.
So let's go.
Okay. You could just click it and it stops. All right.
It'll stop on its own. Yay!
All right, Sister Nada, are you here? All right, congratulations, Sister Nada. What does Sister Nada win? I'm sure you already mentioned it, Sophia.
So Sister Nada wins 25 licenses for open ebooks, and this will give your students access to basically thousands of books from the New York Public Library. Oh, that is not the right website. Open ebooks is great because it will link to your apps and to your iOS, Android phones and devices. The students don't necessarily have to be on a computer. It will allow them to actually, save 10 books at a time. They can keep the books for about 2 months and then they would return it and get new books. And it's really great. And the ones that I have give you ability to give the students early grades, middle school, and high school books. So,
Nada, I see you unmuted yourself. Let's hear from you. What grade do you teach? Where do you teach? And inshallah, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I teach kindergarten in San Francisco Islamic School.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Also Quran Arabic.
That's wonderful.